I'm 17 years old and I struggle with my mental health. I was, I come from a normal middle class Indian family, like nothing really. I wasn't supposed to be this way if it hadn't been for certain events in my life. Like I was smart, but that was it. Nothing really there. But my life kind of took a turn when I was like, I was 7 years old, and it was around that age when one of my uncles started grooming me. He was uh, my mother's sibling, her younger brother, and he would sexually abuse me every time he got me alone, which was often because I was very close to my mother's side of the family when I was younger. And I didn't really understand it at that age because I loved my family. I idolized them. I would have done anything, I couldn't, it, I mean, I didn't even know what was happening, but I couldn't even imagine that, oh, he's a family member. How could he can't do anything wrong? In my mind, that's what I used to think. And I got a little bit older, and so like it went on for about 2 years before I was able to properly put a stop to it. It took me 3 years more to tell anybody in my family. And at first, the only thing I said is that he touched me when things went far beyond that. And it took me 2 years to kind of explain the extent of things to my family because I had, I'd suppressed certain parts because I didn't want to remember. I couldn't bear to remember because it left me with so many questions. But I did. Eventually, the more I faced things and acknowledged that it was there, it started coming out, and it changed my life. And I can't tell if it changed my life for the better or for the worse. I mean, there's both aspects to it. The worse is this, it fundamentally changed me as a person, as who I believe in the way I am, the way I trust, the way I think, and the positive that I found is it. Well, I would have been a writer either way, but it led to me channelizing my writing skills in a more angsty manner, I suppose, which is I'm proud of my work, so there's that. It's just that one event completely derailed my life. Like I was that typical normal Indian Sanskari girl. I was stubborn. and I had strong opinions even back then. But I put my family above anything and everything. It felt like the very core of me got tainted. And I didn't know how to deal with that. I don't believe I do now either. I've just gotten better at coping with it. I used to cry at the smallest of things. Everybody kept telling me that you cry for no reason, and back then I didn't even understand why I'm crying, but a part of me knew that things are wrong. And it has taken me several years, so now it's been a decade. I'm 17 now, so it's been a decade, and it took me 10 years to kind of fully understand the depth to which it has affected me, and I don't even know if I've reached the end of this. I keep thinking that, oh, I've gotten this particular traumatic event figured out at least. I have to deal with the after effects still, but at least I know and I understand it, and then something new pops up. But one of the fundamental changes it brought about is in my view of family. I hated my family. There were a good couple of years where I hated my family so strongly because I had this pain and this anger inside me, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I put it on my family, and they were very frustrated with me as well because they couldn't understand what I was doing. I was going through that typical, the angsty teen phase way too early. So they didn't get it, and neither did I. And I feel like it just kind of ruined things for me in terms of being able to connect with my family. Because since then, things haven't been the same. I've had anxiety since I was 7 years old. I'm not officially diagnosed, but I used to have panic attacks quite regularly at that age. And now they've listened, thankfully, and they'd stopped, but now they started again, and they don't know how to deal with it. My parents, especially. And no matter how much support or validation I get from the support group itself, from Akash and Arushan and Pia and a few trusted adults that I have in my life, I can't help but feel like a burden. Because it feels like I should be able to deal with this now, right? Like I should know better. I should be stronger. But I can't help it. And with my parents, I've gotten to a point where they themselves have become a source of trauma for me in a way. Like they didn't know how to deal with me having problems like this. And they would try to be patient and understanding. But after a point, they'd get frustrated, and that frustration would come out on me verbally. And they would say stuff that it wasn't really meant to hurt me so deeply, but it did because I was just a child who wanted to feel loved again. I wanted to feel like I belonged to somebody, with somebody, that I mattered. I wanted somebody to love me so deeply that it would restore my faith in that, in that purity and wholeness of, of love. Because, for me, love equal to family, and when that was broken, I just kind of broke down as a person. But that didn't happen. And so I kept pushing myself to just, get through each day, and I jumped from one coping mechanism to the other until a point where, it would become unhealthy. And when at some point I would realize that, this is not a good habit. And so I would just I would find something else and, rinse and repeat the same thing, whatever way I found to deal with things, I would take it to an extent that was not good. And anytime I try to talk about things, my mind is such a mess. Like I try to keep track of things, but I can't. And God, this is hard to talk about. My relationship with my parents is complicated, to say the least. I have, I love them in a way, and I know they love me in their own way, but there's just so much pain and misunderstandings and old frustration and all of that grief that's been built up there that hasn't been dealt with, that I don't like being around them anymore. Anytime something happens, or especially because they don't really understand the concept of mental health, they don't understand what anxiety and all of that is like. So when I have times when I'm feeling really low, they just get mad that why are you like this again? And it is so incredibly hurtful to hear that from somebody that you expect to be the one who will love you no matter what. They I've always read about the pain of being brokenhearted by losing out your true love or your first love. But I think what I felt is the pain of having my heart broken by the ones who made it. And that is pain that I cannot ever describe how much it actually hurts. And I've written a lot of poems on how it makes me feel when my parents say something that's hurtful, when they say something that triggers me. But it's not enough. And it's so hard knowing all of this, like I know why, that I have issues with my parents. I understand where things started going wrong and how they've built up over the years. And I know that I need therapy, my parents need therapy, we need group therapy, but that's not going to happen. I know that at some point I need them to understand that they need to be more respectful and more kind with the words they use and how they treat me if we're to have any hope of rebuilding our relationship. But I can't tell them that. And that hurts so badly. I'm that, you know, I was forced into like a sort of hyper independent state at a very young age, and now I'm obsessed with having that control. Like, I can't handle all that responsibility. I can't handle the responsibility of my own emotions and processing my own trauma and dealing with my anxiety, which I have to do. But on top of that, I take on the responsibility of trying to, in some ways, manage my parents' emotions, like trying to schedule breakdowns so that they don't happen in front of them, trying to make sure that when I do talk to them about a problem, I'm careful with the words I use. So we don't end up having a discussion on a topic that will hurt them. But that ends up hurting me because I'm not equipped to handle all of that. And I constantly feel this burden on my shoulders, and people keep telling me that you need to let go of some of those things because I'm not doing well having all of that. It's affecting the present, and it's at this age it's affecting my future as well, but I'm unable to give it up. It's the only way I know how to survive. It's the only life I've ever known, so I don't know how to give it up. And so I keep repeating the cycle within myself where I try and I fail and I get frustrated and I add another brick to the mountain that's been piling on my back of things that I need to deal with at some point, emotions that I've been bottling up and suppressing. And I push forward and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work, but then I keep doing it, which is not good. And it's probably something that I should talk to my counselor about, but I don't even know if I'm ready to actually have a conversation about these things, because this is a one-sided thing, which is hard enough. Have an actual conversation on this and to try and accept responsibility or to let go of some responsibilities that I've forced myself to carry. I can't do that. I was such a beautiful child. I had, I just had this spark that would pull people in. I mean, I was 6, 7 years old and I would be holding full on discussions with adults and my family and family friends and wherever I went. And I used to be so happy. And now I've kind of forgotten what it feels like. I'm this socially awkward, terribly self-conscious teenager who doesn't know how to break free from this cycle that she feels trapped in. And is too proud or too ashamed to actually ask for the help she needs. I'll get enough help that I can say, see, I'm asking for help, I'm doing better. And there's no doubt that it is a little bit of progress. It's better than completely denying myself any help, but it's again a cover up. It's what I do. I can be a complete mess and I will cover it up just enough finding the perfect ways to cover it up so that even if I'm opening up in front of somebody and they see that, okay, this person is kind of a mess, they will see the carefully covered up mess that I've made, which highlights that I have a problem, but it directs the attention away from the actual problems, because the actual problems are ones that I don't want to face. I'm not ready to face them. And I'm just admitting that on camera, so that means it's going to be brought up at some point, which it needs to be, because if it's falling apart and I've been able to do nothing about it. But even the people closest to me don't know about it. There's it's a terrible feeling. What I've learned from my own experiences and from things that I've heard from others, whenever somebody struggles with their mental health, whether you've had experiences like mine or you've had different experiences, whatever it is, anybody who struggles with their mental health, it can throw you so down, and it will make you feel like you've lost yourself. You'll feel so helpless and so isolated, not just from the outer world but from yourself as well, because you deal with having anxiety, but like I don't know how to explain this, but like your inner self wasn't made like that. This is something that has it has come to be because of certain experiences or circumstances. This is not how things were supposed to be. Life is unfair and cruel, but it shouldn't be. Like the human experience is not supposed to be full of suffering. Not only suffering, like suffering is a part of it, and I don't want to get too philosophical here, but God, it's just that. And I feel that, I feel that disconnect between the child me, the me who tried to become an adult when she was just a kid, the me who just wants to be a teenager, and the me who's standing disconnected from all these three perspectives, trying to figure out what to do and knowing what needs to be done but being unable to do it because I'm not ready. I don't feel ready to take on anything more, because walking through all of this is a hard process, and I don't know if I have the strength to do that. And even if I do, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being strong. I don't want to have to be strong anymore. I want it all to go away. I want to be able to be at peace. But I don't know how to achieve that. I mean, I do. I have to work through my issues, but isn't it enough? Having been through trauma, like, yes, the trauma, whether it's the abuse or everything with my parents, which honestly I can't even really talk about. Actually, I have a performance poetry piece which I wrote on my parents. So it's like this 10-12 minute piece which starts from the age of 6, and it like jumps through a couple of years, highlighting specific incidents and things that my parents have said. It's like an entire piece dedicated to how much I resent them. Everything negative has been brought out, and I don't really have the courage to do the entire thing here because I've been saving it for I don't know what, but I think I'll do like the last 3 paragraphs, which is this should make sense once I do it. Okay, I think I was 11 or 12 when I had the courage to admit it to you. The first conversation where we ever acknowledged my pain, and you ended it saying, "Make sure you tell no one else." Do you even remember anything of what you've said? Words that echo in my head that keep pulling me in deeper and deeper again. I try to fight against the tide, but as you've said, I'm too weak to move on. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry I feel so much. I'm sorry for my pain. I'm sorry that I have you as my parents, because I've spent the majority of my childhood apologizing for being a child in vain. I was 13 and I had suicidal tendencies. Each afternoon, I went into the kitchen to stare at the knives and will myself to take my own life. Everybody was asleep. I told myself nobody was gonna miss me, because honestly, who even knew me? I was just a facade, a pretty face to fuss upon. Smile a little wider, your teeth should be whiter. You weren't actually born here, so we'll label you as an outsider. I want to say thank you, but my gratitude keeps being turned into letters of remorse. The words "I'm sorry" feel like a curse. I'm cursed. I'm cursed to feel all the facets of pain without getting any of the gains. I'm cursed and there's no cure, so I'll thank my parents now, because rest assured my voice will live on even as a ghost. 15. And I was regretting my whole life. Through the day that I was born, my heart was perhaps meant to be torn. I'd been to therapy twice, but I still couldn't get them to just be nice. To accept their own daughter. Just once to see her pain. To see the nights of soundless screams, my anxiety-riddled brain. I wanted them to see me. I needed them to see me. Seizures and myoclonic jerks, so many nights I jerked awake, distraught and breathless and unable to think straight, but they labeled it as a problem for me. It's like I'm a democratic constitution. All my problems are made by me, for me, it consists of me. I am the problem. And yet, they love me. So they tell me that I should learn to be grateful for it. I should learn to be nice, because the outside world is never going to accept such a mess. We are your family and we are teaching you to be less, because that is the only way you will ever be any sort of success. I suppose I should say thank you for this as well. Thank you for destroying my sense of self-worth. Thank you for invalidating me every single time I spoke up. Thank you for filling me with rage and anger and pain. If nothing else, I'll at least have my poetry to my name. I'm almost 17 now. And I've lost more of myself than I can ever say. I try to tell you how much it hurts, but you make me sound selfish and crazed. You tell me I'm making you lose your mind, that I'm single-handedly responsible for the worst 2 years of your life. The only 2 years we've actually spent living together. You tell me to be sorry, you tell me to be nice, you tell me that I should be grateful that we're family, because that's the only reason I'm even loved by you guys. I tried. I try to sympathize. I try to see things from your eyes. I try to think beyond my loneliness and to be kinder in a way that you might like. I've tried so hard. But I don't know what to do anymore. The resentment in me has built up to such a point. I'm like a dormant volcano, lava hissing and building inside me as I prepare to finally explode. I still wonder if it would be easier if I just died. I'm already covered in invisible cuts and wounds. It really wouldn't make much of a difference if my blood bleeds out too. But that's not what I deserve, right? I try to remind myself of that. But the voices in my head are clamoring now. It's hard to hear the angels when the demons have your soul snatched. So I sit quietly in the corner. I watch as my blood intermingles with my tears, and yet to this date you are unable to understand my fears. But hey, what matters is that you love me. So I guess I'll just say thank you again. Thank you for loving me despite making it obvious that you're doing it as a big favor to me. Thank you for taking away anything that might make me smile, because of course it's harmful to me and you just want what's best for me. Thank you for teaching me to burn myself just to have some light in my life. I cannot breathe in the darkness, but you forced me to make it my home and learn to survive. That's all I'm allowed to do. Just survive, never thrive, because my version of thriving is a burden to your base values of life. So I continue to kill myself, stripping away parts of my skin and bones and soul in a perhaps desperate attempt to play the perfect daughter's role. I could go on and never end this barrage of thoughts, but I don't know if you can handle that, so I'll stop now. A declaration of hate has been presented to you on a platter labeled love. I no longer expect you to be able to ever truly see me. Thank you. This was half of it. And for me, it's such an emotional piece, because I remember this took me half a month to write, and even after I wrote it, the rest of the month I could not write anything, because I would do this in parts. I would write like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I just look at what I'd written and I would be in shock, because how has this been my life? I could not. On one hand, I keep saying that, I've accepted the fact that I have trauma and I talk about it so easily, but what I've been realizing in the past couple months especially is that there's this detachment. That's why when I do let my emotions come through and when I write something like this, it's so, the emotions are so raw, and it's all so fresh, and that anger and that pain and that grief, all of that vulnerability comes through, because in reality I've just detached myself from all of that, and I say that, oh, you know what, I've just accepted it when I haven't. And even now, that I didn't want to include this per se, because I don't know, but I ended up doing it because this is the, I'm an honest person in general, but I'm never more honest than I am in my poetry. And I wanted to, the entire purpose of doing this is to show people that they're not alone. All of this, whether, if to others who might have been abused or who have gone through other horrific things, and abuse of any type, like sexual, physical, mental, emotional abuse, whatever it is, any other sort of trauma that you've been through, difficult situations in life that have affected you to such a great extent, you're not alone. Not in feeling all of those things, not in struggling with life afterwards. And I wanted to show that even this level of detachment that I have, which I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be acknowledging this outside of this video for a while at least, but even that is real. And it's a normal experience for people like us. You can't expect yourself to behave like a non-traumatized person would. And that is something I struggle with myself. I hold myself to such inhuman standards of perfection because I feel the need to justify my worth. I feel the need to justify any space that I take up. And not only is that impossible in a normal circumstance, I come from a place of trauma. I come in with all of this baggage, and so in such a case, it's like actually quite literally impossible for anybody to do that. Nobody can do it. And if you can't do it too, that's okay. We're all going through, we've all been there and we get it. There are people who understand. And the only reason I've pushed myself to do this video is that I really want you to be able to ask for help. Reach out. It's okay if you struggle. Even with, the way I do, I just admitted it that, I ask for help, but not the help that I need. I ask for band-aids when I need a bandage that covers, I don't know, I can't think of an accurate analogy, but that even the little things matter. And I wish I could end this on a more positive note. I wish I could say that, I went through all of this shit in my life and now I'm good. But I'm not. I'm not good. But I am still alive. And I go through every single day, and some are better and some are worse and some are downright terrible. But I've had moments of happiness and peace. I've learned to love again. I've learned to trust again. And I've found a family of my own. And some of those members are right here in HOBS, and there are others outside of HOBS that have become an essential part of who I am. The people in my inner circle, and a lot of credit goes to them for, even when they didn't know it, they were the ones who inspired me to keep going. And God, I couldn't be ending this on a more cliche note, but that's kind of all we can do. The only thing we can do is we have to keep going. And at some point, we hope that things will get better. There are moments in between. Even when you're struggling, there will be moments that you will appreciate and remember for the rest of your life. And you constantly work towards reaching a point where those moments that are few and far in between become a more regular thing, become a larger part of your life. Changing the scales up. Instead of having the negativity and all of those darker emotions be the ones that are bearing down on you, let the happiness and peace and contentment wash over you. Hope that your life reaches that point. And I don't know what to say. I'm still struggling with that myself, but you are seen, and you are valued, and there are people who get it. I don't really know what else to say, and this video has been such a mess, which I will freak out about at some point, probably, because nowadays I just freak out of everything. I freak out about everything, so I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just stop here. But just, you are seen and you are valued, and I really hope that you try and reach out for help. I really hope that all of us, me included, everybody in HOBS, everybody outside HOBS, I hope that we get the help that we deserve. I hope that we get the love and care and support that we deserve.